Hey everybody, this is Corin Smith from TechTower.com. Today I'll be doing a tutorial on the selection tools in Adobe Photoshop CS6. I'm going to start with the Marquee tool today. Basically, you start off with the default of a rectangle marquee. It's a four-sided square rectangle, obviously. And you can just click and drag, and that'll select a rectangle easily for you. And say you need a perfect square to do this. If you hold Shift down, and you click and drag, it'll keep a perfect square for you for your selection. Also, if you need, you can hit Alt and it'll scale from the center. I'll show you a little better in the middle here. So you have your square. If you hit Alt, it'll scale from the middle of that object or selection. So do that and move that up here just to show you. You can cut off the area you had, or another thing you can do is when you're using a brush tool or something like that, this area is now live to draw on, but if you try to draw outside of it while it's selected, you can't do that. Easy way to fix that, if you wanted to draw on the outside and leave that area blank, just hit Control-Shift-I to invert, or you can go up to Selection and hit the inverse. So just hit Control-Shift-I, and now this area is live, and you can't draw on here. Just hit Control-D to deselect, or if you still had it selected, you can go and select and hit deselect up there. Next up, I'm going to be covering the elliptical marquee tool. This is just like the rectangle one, where you can have your oval instead of a rectangle. Or if you hold down Shift, you'll have your perfect circle, and Alt scales from the center. And looks good right about there. And same thing, if you want to draw inside of there, this area is now live and this side isn't. Or you can hit Control-Shift-I or go up to the Select panel and hit Inverse. And that makes this area now live and this area is set in stone. And we'll just do some drawing in here. Draw right around here. And I'm going to hit Control-D to deselect, or you can go up to Select and hit Deselect up there as well. And that covers your marquees. There's also single row marquee and single column. These allow for single pixels to be selected, but they're not very popular to use. Most of the time you'll be using rectangle or elliptical, so that's why I covered those. Next we'll be going into lasso. So lasso tool, basically you just click around, and this area within there is now selected. Same deal, this area will be live, this is not. And if you hit Control-Shift-I, they're inverted. This area is now live, this area is not. And Control-D to deselect. Same thing, you can go up to the Select panel and do all that, but I prefer using the shortcuts. Next we'll do the polygonal one. This is an interesting one. If you click, you'll see a straight line that comes along. Say I want to select kind of just a little square here. So click. And if you want to close it off, you'll notice that right beside the icon, there'll be a little circle. That's how you know you're closing off your selection. And you just click, and same deal, this area will be live, this area is not. You can hit Control-Shift-I, that'll inverse it, and this area is now dead and this area is live. And Control-D to deselect. Next up, we'll be doing the magnetic lasso. Basically how this one functions is it calculates different contrast between the high and low areas. That makes sense. Basically there's just a lot of contrast between, say, these GIFs and this environment map. So if I were to click, it recognizes that and it just stays along that line of contrast. It's very handy, say I'm just wanting to select this area of box. Fortunately our purple here gets in the way, but yeah, as you can see, it sticks nicely. It's a good tool to have. And same deal, there's a circle that appears beside the icon to close it, or you can double click. And there's your selection. Same deal, this area inside will be live. This area outside won't be. But if I can Control-Shift-I, this area is now live and this area is not. And Control-D to deselect. And those are your selectors in the lasso area. Next up we have the quick selection tool, or W. This kind of works the same as the magnetic lasso. click in an area and it kind of tells the contrast between that stuff. So it's a very smart tool to have when you're trying to get these little areas. Say I just want to get this box. Just move it around like your paintbrush and it'll start morphing to the areas. Let's get all the boxes. And then some of you are like, oh no, what do? I selected this area. Well, if you go up here to the minus, it just allows you to kind of stitch it back to where you wanted it to go. Just go carefully. Oh yeah, so basically that's what you do for the quick select. Same deal, this area in here will be live, while this area is not. And if you invert it, Control-Shift-I, this area now becomes live and this area is not. And we'll just hit Control-D to deselect. So the last thing we'll cover, last selector, is the magic wand. This area just allows you to click on very similar colors. So say I want to work on this top of the ribbon, click there, boom, selected. Or I want to work on the gold one, there you go, side. It's a good tool to have if you're really just trying to get those very similar color areas. Same thing if you want to click on that area and you wanted the inverse and just keep that area selected so that it's dead. Control-Shift-I. And now I can't color in there to ruin it, but I can color everywhere else. Ta-da! So yeah, those are basically your sectors in Photoshop. I hope this helped you out. Check out every other tutorial we have on techtower.com and I hope you have a good day.